Hello, guys, and welcome to tonight's IncrediChat. I'm Michael Grassia, and it's going to be a Get in Tune night. So it's time to get in tune with Michael Grassia. And what we're going to do, like I start all my Get in Tunes, I'm going to play my intro. And welcome back, and thank you for tuning in tonight. Now, I don't know if you tuned in last night or saw any of the posts. Tonight was going to be a surprise night. Originally, we had Cassine Gaines and Tim Clark of Dark Crystal were going to be on tonight, but we scheduled for a few reasons. One, we were able to get our friend Chris, who, don't forget, is going to be on that show tonight, is talking about his collection. Who also has memorabilia, so it was a great way to add that. Plus, also, although I'm friends with the guys and I know a bit about the Dark Crystal, it's not my specialty. And Mike Lopez actually knows more about it than I do, and we wanted to make sure that we gave you the best interview conversation that we're having with our friends here, and so we decided to move it to another night. So what am I going to do? Here we go. Oh, thank you, Orange County Collectibles. I use that intro when I do my educational. Get in Tune, for those who don't know, is my educational cartooning brand. I travel to schools and libraries. I've done some online stuff now because of the quarantine. And I travel and I talk about comics and cartooning and how animation and all that stuff works. And it's a very fun gig when I can get them. I also have a bunch of YouTube streams that I've done during this time to give away free to the kids that are stuck at home. So they had some extra art in their lives and creativity and stuff. So I thought that was fun. Now, and I'm still doing. I'll do it till the end of the school year until I start my summer gig. So I didn't know what I was going to do. I actually reached out to a bunch of people. I don't want to say a bunch. How much is a bunch? 5, 6 people maybe. I reached out to probably 6 or 7 people, to be honest with you. And a couple of them were ready to go and all set to go. But unfortunately, they did have other plans because of the short notice. And that's fine. That's understandable. I also will bring them on. Most of them were artist friends of mine. And I'll bring them on my Tuesday night Get in Tune. So we'll be doing Get in Tune every Tuesday night, but it'll be more conversational, interviewee type than me doing some drawing. So I thought about it, and I know I wrote some stupid stuff up there. It was like, hey, watch Michael juggle, right? Oh, bad. That was a bad one, but I actually juggle. I try to juggle every day for about 10 minutes. It's actually good, healthy exercise. However, I'm not going to juggle all day or all night. That was just a little silliness there. What's my summer gig? I am I'm a head of the art department at a summer camp in New York City called Asphalt Green. They have 2 campuses. I don't want to say I run. I work at the Upper East Side campus up on 90th. I think it's 90th Street. I haven't been there in a while. I'm only there in the summer. And so I oversee the art teachers, the dance teacher, the theater teacher, and a few other things. And I help out where I'm needed in that. It's more like running a small, running the department, the art department. So yeah, it's fun. And if it was an all year gig, it would be really awesome because I actually love what I do. The people I work with are really great. And, but it's only goes on during the summer. You know what? So Orange County Collectibles, I'm sorry. I know you talk more with Mike than with me. I forgot your actual name. If you want to tell it to me, this way I can answer instead of saying Orange County Collectibles. I can't go into a lot because I don't know 100% we're still waiting on New York State, but it does look like camps will run with modified. Greg, okay, thank you. I'm sorry. It's more like going to be modified if it actually does run. I've actually talked with some camps because I do my Get in Tune gig. I've talked with libraries. Like I actually just got some cancellation on my library gigs for the summer, and we're talking about going on, doing it on like a Zoom, like a virtual thing. So I'm talking with camps about virtual events. So that even if that means I do pre-recorded stuff and send it to them, or they buy that from me, or they pay me to come on live, whatever, however it works out. So yeah, that's my summer gig. I started that one last year. I've done a few other things during the summer. I've worked at a lot of other camps and art programs because I do a lot of cartoon education with kids. I mean, I work with adults too, but working with kids is fun because they they're so imaginative. Mike and I, we travel to comic book conventions and we run kids sections there. And one of the things we've always said, and one of the reasons we love doing it, is because these kids are so imaginative. It's fun just to give them that few minutes. It's 45 minutes, half hour. It's kind of enter and leave type of stuff. It's no, we'll say we have a class starting at noon, and at noon, if we get 5 people, cool, we'll do a class with 5 people, but we can have 10 or 15 by the end, because people have just come in, and we just kind of go over stuff with them. And, we bring our friends that are good with kids and work with kids. And like Melissa, who was on our Tuesday night event with the women in the female fantasy authors and writers, authors and illustrators. Melissa was one of the illustrators. She comes to the shows and she does 1 or 2 workshops. If it's 2 days, like we give them 1 workshop a day. Anyway, I mean, it's a fun stuff to do. And so tonight, like I said, I wrote a lot of silly stuff on there. On the little X. I really didn't know what I wanted to do. I haven't joked about you guys watching me sleep, and I thought that would be funny, but to be honest, I couldn't nap, so I'm not tired. I actually took 2 naps today. So what I thought would be fun is I'm going to do a little bit of drawing. I don't want to. This isn't going to be like a lesson. I'm not like, hey, watch me teach, and I'm gonna draw and teach you. Excuse me. What I figured I would do tonight is sit down. I pulled out some DVDs. I pulled out some comic books, all trade stuff that I'd like to talk about. Things that, they're not everything, but things that inspired me growing up. And you know what? I'm going to pull out like a couple of more real quick from my other shelf because I didn't even get my comic strip books that I like. So let me grab this, and where is this? Right here. So let's start with comic strips. Comic strips for me were my first real introduction. I mean, my introduction to like characters and cartoons were like, things like this. This is the last incarnation of the Super Friends cartoon. But I grew up watching Super Friends, Spider-Man, His Amazing Friends, all those fun cartoons. So I had a love for superheroes. But I also grew up watching, the old Hanna-Barbera, the Looney Tunes, and we all know, when Mike comes on, he's a big Scooby fan, which is cool. I like Scooby, but I've always said I'm more of their animal characters. Ricochet Rabbit's one of my all-time favorite. I love like Yogi Bear, Huckleberry Hound, McGilla Gorilla, Peter Potamus. But one of my favorite shows was an action show they did. And where's that DVD I pulled out today? Give me 1 second. That's a show they did. But this one right here is probably my favorite superhero show that came out of Hanna-Barbera. It's called Space Stars. So back in the 60s when they had their own shows of Space Ghost, the Mighty Mightor, so it was Space Ghost and Dino Boy, Moby Dick and the Mighty Mightor. It was Frankenstein Jr. and the Impossible, which is my, second favorite to hear. And I think I have the DVD somewhere over there. They had the Herculoids, they had all this stuff. What I liked about this is this was an hour series, and they took those stories from all those characters and kind of combined them together. And they made a few new characters, like, was it the Teen Force? And it was just fun. And I had great sci-fi. I love sci-fi. For my fantasy, the somewhat fantasy with a sci-fi twist aspect was the Herculoids. So I really, really enjoyed this show a lot. Another one that I enjoyed that was kind of fantasy based that they did was Goltar and the Golden Lance. All right. A lot of these type of shows inspire the type of work I do. Like I said last night, if you watched us, I said I love fantasy, D&D. The Dungeons and Dragons cartoon may be my all-time favorite because for today's standards, it really still stands up well. Outside of a few like 80s jokes or references, it really does stand up well. So those are the type of things that inspired me to create. But I've always loved comic strips. Comic strips are my all-time favorite. I used to read the comics in the newspaper. That was a section my parents would give me when we'd visit family on weekends. Like on a Sunday, I'd sit with my Uncle Joe, who was my dad's brother, and we'd read the comics together and draw out of the comics. And my Uncle Joe was an amazing illustrator. He could draw anything, and it wasn't like just copying. He put the characters and poses and stuff. But some of the strips that always stuck out to me, outside of Peanuts, because who doesn't love Peanuts? Good old Charles Schultz there. And he basically in my opinion, created the humor section of the newspapers. But that's just my own opinion. I don't know if that's what other people say. But what I was really attracted to were books like or strips like this. Hagar's over here. I was looking at that. But Beetle Bailey, done by Mort Walker, and Hagar the Horrible. And Mort Walker also did other strips like High and Lois. And I don't know if it was my love for animation, but what I really enjoy is the clean line look when you look through the books, and the simplicity of the drawings. And Dick Brown, who created High and Lois, who created Hagar the Horrible, actually worked with Mort Walker for a while. And now Dick's son Chris is doing Hagar. And I believe Mort's sons are doing his strips. So, one of my most modern, and I'll talk about it too, but one of my most modern comic strips that are my favorite, and if you guys get a chance to check it out, is Rip Haywire. It's done by Dan Thompson. He does also a strip called Harley, which is funny. This is a story about a soldier of fortune, and that's Rip over here in the yellow. That's his love interest, Cobra, and that's his dog, TNT. He talks, and he gets a lot of great lines in the comics. So, the other night on Tuesday night, we was it Tuesday or Wednesday? I think it was Wednesday. We had my friends Francis and Roger on, and they're strip artists. And one of the things I wanted to do when talking to them was open up an audience to them who may not know them. Like I said, during the quarantine, I know things are starting to open, but not everyone's going to start going out right away. Or even if you do, you can read this on your phone while you're on the bus or train. You can read their strips online. We still can't go into stores a lot. So if you can't get your comic books and you want a comic fix, you can go back and read tons and tons of back strips. I mean, Rip Haywire, I don't know the amount of time it's been going on for, but I've known about it for at least 5 years, maybe more. And like Roger said, he's been doing his strip for 10, which was The Gray Zone, and Francis does Suburban Fairy Tales, which is been going on for 15 years, and both hysterically funny. So I hope you've checked them out since then. But yeah, the comics were what I love about strips is that a strip allows me the time to tell a story or a joke in either 1 to, 6 panels if you're doing like a Sunday, or a few more, than that, but usually 3 or 4 panels. So, when you do a comic strip, like a gag strip, like Garfield or something like that, where it's 3 panels, it's the basic setup of a joke. Introduce it, set up the joke, and then have your punchline. So that's why Garfield works so well. Although Garfield isn't he isn't my favorite Orange Cat. I love him, but I'm a Heathcliff fan at heart, and I love the single panel jokes of Heathcliff. I love the single panel gags of The Far Side. When I tend to work, I try to strip a while back. My goal wasn't to try to create something that was hysterically funny or really, touching or moving or whatever. I just was trying to test myself. Can I put a strip out 3 days a week? And I did. I think did I do 3 or 2? I don't remember now. But I did it. And my goal was to do it for a year. And however, this time last year, I spent a week in the hospital. And I opened the strip in October of 2018. And in May 2019, I spent a week in the hospital. I had pneumonia. And when I was in the hospital, that strip kind of stopped talking to me. I stopped talking with the characters. I don't know if that makes sense to you guys, but when you're writing characters for so long, they kind of become part of you, and you can kind of have this internal conversation in your head. And it just stopped, and I stopped the strip then. But what I was starting to do is I was changing it over from this multi-panel 3-4 panels comic to a single panel gag. And I posted about 3 or 4 of them, I think. And I think the strip was starting to get funnier because I like the challenge of a single panel gag where you have just this one little panel to get your whole story and gag, together. So I think at some point I'm going to try to bring him back, or at least bring back another character, or bring it up. Hi, Michelle. Thanks for your comment. She said that makes a lot of sense. So what I do is, by the way, I read a lot of comics. And before I got married in 2008, and I had literally over 30 boxes of comics at my parents' house. I knew where I was going to live. I could not take 30 boxes of comics with me. So I sold some. I donated some. There was an event that used to happen a couple of times a year in Orange County. I think it was West Orange, New Jersey. It was called Superheroes for Hospice. My friend Spiro would put it on, and when he got let go from the job, they stopped doing it because he was the organizer. But I would donate books, and it was a fantastic place to help out the hospice center, but also get really good books and finished collections. I got a lot of trades for $5, $10, things that you would never think you can get for that, like hardcover. I got like Spirit and some Spirit DC archives. I got some Plastic Man that was like $40-$50 in the store, but at there was somebody's old book, and I was like, cool, I got it. And so like I donated. I'm down to 6 boxes now, and one of them's actually my wife's box of her Archies. I'm down to really 5 boxes of comics, and although I love comic books and I enjoy reading them, I'm not really going into those boxes too much anymore. I tend to go to my bookshelf and pull up something like this, and even though I've read this one twice now, I can still go back and enjoy it, and I like the serialness of comic strips, where if it's daily, you got to go back every day, just get the idea in there, or if it's a single panel or just weekly, you can return to it and that story is going to continue. Comic books are fantastic, but you get a book on that whatever Wednesday of the month it comes out, you go home, read it, and now you go wait 30 more days, So the strip, I feel, just gives me more story at the end of the day, more bang for my buck, if that makes sense, even though I'm not paying for them because they're online. But yeah, it's You know, that's my love of strips. But let me show you, you know, some comics. Sorry, I'm just moving my phone down. I'm gonna let that charge. Some comics that really had an impact on me. Not all of them, but this one right here, The Untold Legend of Batman. I'm not a huge Batman fan. I mean, I like Batman, but I don't like how everything can be solved up from him these days by saying, you know, how'd you do it? Well, I'm Batman. You know, I always preferred his sidekicks. I'm a big Nightwing fan, but this was a fun book. And the artists on here, this is let me see here. The cover's done by Garcia Lopez, you know, Jose Garcia Lopez, which, by the way, all those prints behind me on the wall above, those are Jose Garcia Lopez prints. Those are from when he redeveloped the look and created the style guide for DC back, I want to say it was early 80s, and how all the characters were supposed to look back then. And these are actual, I guess, blown up images from the style guide, because I've seen pictures from it. But who did this here? So this book was written by Len Wein and illustrated by Jim Aparo and John Byrne. So you're going to know that automatically. Beautiful artwork in here. And one of my favorite parts of this book, if you haven't read it, and then this book came out, God, what? 1982. So that was the first printing of this book. So if you haven't read it, I'm not spoiling anything because it's past the time of spoiler. In this book, you find out that Bruce was actually the original Robin. He teamed up with a detective who taught him how to be a detective. So you got to see that story, and I'm like, that's kind of cool. But hey, I mean, there was other good stuff in there too. I don't want to spoil it, because if you do want to check it out, it is a fun book. But I thought that was cool. Another book that really, I'm going to go to, you know, I'm going to go to my next one. I'll wait for my all-time favorite next. The Life and Times of Scrooge McDuck. 2 years before you were born. Thanks, Victor. Victor said that, but no, that's great. That means you grew up in a great era of cartoons and comics, though. The Life and Times of Scrooge McDuck. This is, I believe, the Don Rosa. Yeah, it says at the bottom. And I loved the Disney Ducks. Scrooge has always been my favorite. Donald comes in next, you know. So I was really excited when the DuckTales cartoon came out, because although they weren't 100% true to the stories that you would find in the Scrooge McDuck comics, they were, you know, kind of loosely based off it. So I had ideas of certain things that were happening, going on in there. Now, you know, hold on. I'm going to save my all-time favorite for the last one here. Another book that really inspired me, Crisis on Infinite Earths. I know we all know this. The CW this year just did their crossover. It was the Crisis crossover. And I was really excited to see how they were going to handle that. And this was the book. This was the book that got me into collecting comic books right here. When the original issues my cousin had. And I don't know if I read them the first year they came out, if it was like 86, did I read them later in 87, whatever it was. But my cousin had them. And I remember being at his house one day, and he had a bunch of comics out, and we were looking through them, and I read like the first, I think he had the first 2 or 3 issues, like right away that I read them. And I'm like, okay, I'm hooked. And this, and they had my favorite characters too, because I love the Super Friends. Although I love Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, I keep using that word love, that you're a kid, you love everything. You know, you're excited to see it, you know. I always kind of geared more towards the DC characters, and this is the book that brought me in right here. So without this book, I probably would never, ever have done comic books in my life. I've always loved the strips. Another one that I truly love is this one here, the Smurfs and Friends. I have basically every Paper Cuts Smurf book out. And I know you're thinking, what's a 44-year-old man reading the Smurfs about? Well, read the actual comics, not even the new stuff they do, but the original that when Peo created them, he created them in the 40s, but I believe it wasn't until like the mid to late 50s they got their own comic, and I believe it was strip form. Johan and Pee Wee, who are on here, who ended up in their cartoons. Where's my fingers? There they are. Sorry, I got to go backwards with the camera here. These were the original characters. Those were that was the comic that Peo was doing, and the Smurfs guest appeared in there. And then they got so popular that they spawned their own comic, and then eventually their own series on TV. Now, one of my favorite characters, I did not realize, I've studied Peo and I've studied his work, but I was unfamiliar with this character. I'm just looking for the cover page. Come on. So this is the cover page. If anyone knows this is Benny Breakiron. Okay? And what I loved about Benny is that Benny is a character. He's a kid with superpowers. He's basically Superman as a little kid. But whenever he gets sick, he loses his powers. And right away, he loses his powers right when he kind of needs them the most. And he'll get the sniffles or something. And I'm like, that's just a fun story. He also has a character, I think his name is Pussycat, Peo created. I remember it is a cat. I just haven't read comics on him. I have looked at a few like single pages and stuff online, but it's not something I've read yet, but I want to, just because of how much I'm a fan of him and how much Peo's work influenced me. Not only did I love the Smurfs as a kid, but I just thought the illustration, because it was a little different. I mean, they eventually tried to fit it into their Hanna-Barbera, because Hanna-Barbera was a company that made Smurfs. They tried to fit it into their kind of style, but it was always a little different to me than their other cartoons. And I felt that, this was different, and I want to watch it. I watched it because it was different, and I liked it. Another book we can go to, and sometimes it's not just the books, but it's the characters. Superman Adventures. I always loved Superman, one of my top characters. However, this comic animated series is my favorite interpretation of Superman. So even though I have older books of Superman, things that I loved as a kid, this is the Superman I enjoy reading, because to me, this was the best interpretation of Superman I got in animation. I know everyone loves the Chris Reeves stuff, and he's great. But I can go back. I can watch the George Reeves. I can watch the Kirk Allen. I love it all. I actually was a really big fan in the late 80s, early 90s of the Superboy cartoon. I think the first actor I think his name was John Newton, and he got let go for whatever reason. I don't know. But they brought in Gerard Christopher, who kind of had this Chris Reeve look, and it worked really well for Superboy. And if you have the DC Universe app, go and check it out. All the seasons are there. It's silly, but if you like that Silver Age silliness, it's really fun, and I really enjoyed it. And there were a few episodes that, even though I've watched the series incomplete since I got the DC Universe app, occasionally I go back and check out a few episodes here and there because of just how fun they were, or how great that concept was. And I think about how cool would it have been if they made this today because of the technology. The other thing I liked was this, the Ninja Turtles. Now, although I did read the actual comic, like the Eastman and Laird original stuff, this stuff is more based off the Archie comics, this collection, and this was based off the late 80s, early 90s cartoon, and I just love that. That was my first real introduction to the Ninja Turtles, was that cartoon. And then I found out they had a comic, and I tried to read some of that, but I was a little too young, so I didn't read it till I was later. But I love the Archie adaptation. I love the silliness that was in there. And they're just fantastic. To me, sometimes this is my favorite art to look at, because it doesn't, they're great, but it doesn't take themselves seriously, you know, and that's what I like in my stories is a little silliness. I like the animated, the slightly animated look, I'll call it, because it's a little more comic booky than animated. But I love that. But my number one comic book, excuse me, character that I love. I don't think there's probably going to be anyone better to me than this character, because he's done by my favorite artist. That's probably why I'm saying this. Is Gru. Sergio Aragonés is my all-time favorite comic artist. I when I was a kid, and I've mentioned on here that I have a medical condition. I had a couple of kidney transplants and stuff. But we first discovered my kidney condition when I was 8 years old. I spent a week in the hospital, and I believe I got a bunch of like gift stuff, you know, like from my parents, from their, you know, coworkers and whatnot. And I believe it was one of my dad's secretaries in his office. They gave me a few things. I remember I got a Mr. T action figure from the A-Team, but there was a Mad magazine in there. And in that Mad magazine, that was my first experience looking at Mad. And, you know, Don Martin was in there and everything, but Sergio's work just popped and stood out to me. And it was the first time, I got to say, I think I actually discovered an artist by name where I was like, I got to follow this guy because it's hysterical. So I used to buy some Mad here and there when I could. And I'd always, first thing I'd do is flip to Sergio's work, read his little section. And, you know, and then I started, like, as I got older, I started realizing he did comic books, and I got Gru. And, you know, in the 90s, I think it's somewhere on the shelf, or maybe it was late, maybe it was sometime 2000, I think it was 2000s. He did Louder Than Words, so it's an all pantomime strip. I love that stuff. I love his style. We got a comment, let me see, from Victor. It says, I like the silliness of the 80s and 90s, decades before. I agree. I don't think we have enough silliness now. I think the silliness that they do on animated cartoons are not as funny as they do. Very few things actually make me laugh. And I know I might get a lot of hatred for this, but one of the few cartoons that actually makes me laugh that's modern is Teen Titans Go. I know it's full of like fart jokes and stupid things like that, but it's done in a way where if you were a fan of the original comic, or I don't want to even say the original series, the series that came out, was it late 90s, early 2000s, because the original series was a Filmation thing done back in the 60s, I believe. But if you were a fan of that stuff, you can get the humor and you'll enjoy it, I think. I think a lot of people want to knock it because it's really kiddish. Excuse me. But what I think also, sorry, dry my hand, got a little wetness there. I don't want to touch my comic. Victor says, not into much of today's humor myself. You know, we can actually talk about go on to a topic of humor. I study humor a lot. And I know I'm sidetracking from my Teen Titans Go stuff, but it's okay. Humor changes about every decade. And for years, I've used Saturday Night Live as my judge of humor. And I don't know if it's me, but I think the 90s, early 2000s was the last really good SNL cast, you know, and then it just kind of changed. Very few things actually really make me laugh. I haven't watched that show. Like, I think I watched it religiously, maybe like, was it 5-6 years ago, maybe a little more, because what's his name, Bill Hader. I really enjoy him. So, you know, when you look at what the 70s did and the 80s did, and each decade, I feel humor changes. Even if you look at stand-up comedians, so very few can constantly stay relevant throughout the decades. You know, and it's, you know, but you know, humor, it's subjective. It's somebody's going to like it or they're not going to like it. You know, that's what it is. It's like you turn on a TV show, you either like it or you don't. And what do? You don't watch it. So if you don't like the person who's telling the jokes, don't watch it. You know, that's kind of what it comes down to. Don't listen to it. You know, I personally don't like when people get attacked for telling a joke or doing humor these days, because it didn't happen. I mean, it's supposed to be social commentary, just like when you look at single panel gag strips, you're taking a look at society and you're kind of just giving it a twist. So anybody who does humor, I feel, should get, like, you know, a free pass on some of the stuff that they're doing and saying, because that's their job. They're social commentators, you know. Also, one of the things I wanted to open up this today to you guys, and I know, and I'm great that you guys are interacting with me on here and asking me questions, or just even adding some comments, which is fantastic. But ask me anything today. I'm happy to answer any questions. I'm doing a lot of different things. I'm actually gonna do a little drawing today. I thought that would be fun, to just kind of sketch and talk. Sometimes sketching clears my head. Actually, not sometimes, all the time. That's what it does. Unless I'm working on a project, then in my head I'm like, oh my God, I'm getting tense because it's not coming out the way I want it to look. But yeah, I drawing is like all I do. I've actually spent 10 hours or so in my studio drawing, whether it's in a light box, you know, traditionally, or on my Cintiq, which is what I'm going to be drawing with today. That's why I have my smudge guard on. What was I going to say? But when I leave my studio and I go spend time with my wife and I go sit in the living room, the next thing I got on me is my drawing pad. It's like, when I want to relax, I just take out my drawing pad. You know what I mean? It's just always with me. It's too much ingrained in me. So Victor asks, what do I think of HBO Max? Well, I'll be honest, I haven't paid too much attention to it. I do know things that are on there, but we had a little bit of a conversation about it last night. And Michael Lopez mentioned that, you know, they're putting stuff on there, but, you know, Warner Brothers, you know, whose library is on there, has the Boomerang app that does more classic cartoons, and they have the DC Universe app. And he would like them to merge so everything's in one place. And I get that, and that may happen, but I don't see that happening for a while. I haven't decided if I want to pay for it yet, because I have regular TV, which I have no problem getting rid of. When my contract is up, I think I'm going to get rid of regular TV. I have Hulu. I have Netflix. I have Amazon Prime. I have the Boomerang app, and I have DC Universe. And, you know, then there's, you know, things I can do for TV. Like if I wanted to pay for HBO, I would do that, or I could go for free and watch stuff on the CW app and watch the CW superheroes or Supernatural or whatever, if that was what I wanted to do. So although I do enjoy some of the program they have on there, I have access to way too much, and there's a lot I don't watch right now because either I'm busy or I put background stuff on. Like right now on Hulu, I've been watching Stargate Universe. I've said many times Stargate Universe is my all-time favorite. Well, not Stargate Universe, Stargate Atlantis I've been watching. I've been saying Stargate is my favorite sci-fi. I even love it over Star Wars. I know I could get hated for that. Same thing with Star Trek. But I grew up loving mythology. I grew up loving science fiction. I grew up loving, you know, fantasy. And here's a series that kind of put everything together. I remember, I think it was 94, the original movie came out. I remember sitting in the theater with my friends, and I was at an end seat. I still, like, this is how much that movie affected me. I was sitting at the end, and the second we went through the Stargate, like, I grabbed the armrests, and I just kind of, whoa. I mean, it doesn't have the effect that the effect doesn't have the effect that the what a Stargate would have, what they could do with effects now. But I was just like, oh my God, this is amazing. And then it takes me to a place that's like ancient Egypt, and all of a sudden my mythology's there. You know what I mean? And then when they started the show Stargate Atlantis, and they started opening it up to other mythical stories and talking about, you know, having the Asgards as a race and Thor being their head guy. And, you know, obviously some things changed and, you know, but, sorry, my pen, I'm fixing my pen right now. But yeah, no, that was great. And then when Atlantis came out, it wasn't the best of the three series they did, because they had SG1, they had Atlantis, and they had Universe. But I liked Atlantis for what it was. I'm in the last season right now. I can probably knock it off. Well, I can tomorrow. I'll be doing a lot of streaming, and I'll be mentioning that later. But probably by Sunday or Monday, I'll finish Atlantis, and maybe I've already rewatched Universe. As some of you know, I was stuck in bed for a while. I had the COVID-19 for a little bit, and I was, when I came home, I was quarantined to a room. I couldn't do anything, so I would just watch stuff. And Universe is only, I think, 2 seasons, maybe 3. I think 2. So I just knocked that off quickly. I watched on and off of SG1, but I do watch more. Don't think that's all I watch. It's just background noise, because I've seen it so many times that when I draw and I'm doing work in my studio, it's more just listening to the story, and I'll pick up my head at a good part that I remember. You know, I don't sit and just look at it. It's kind of more also, it's like if I'm listening to a podcast almost, you know, and that's how I use that stuff. So I put on things that I know. When I want to watch stuff that I don't know, that's when I'm going to sit down, and that's when I'm going to like pay attention, you know. And then I can't be in my studio, or I can't, even though I have my drawing pad, when I can't draw, I just kind of keep it on my lap or whatever. Because, you know, it's my security blanket type of thing. But yeah, I always tell people with HBO Max or just any streaming service, if you want to try it, give it a try. You know, there's always a free time, and you can cancel. Oh, and I also have Disney Plus, which I'm on quite a bit too. I love Disney Plus. I'm a big Disney geek. So I get to see a lot of fun stuff on there. And, you know, I mean, the library on that is going to be vast, and it's just going to grow. And, you know, and like we were saying last night, if they do merge, that would be better. And that might be my reason for purchasing it. You know, although the DC Universe app, I get to read comics on. So if they were able to incorporate that reader into it, and I can pull out DC Comics, then I'm all for it, you know. But I do like the DC app a lot. So yeah, why don't I start drawing a little bit? I'll doodle, and you know, I know we usually do, it's Incrediweek. We're trying to give you 2 hours, but if I end a little early, or I go over, whatever, but feel free to ask me questions while I draw. I don't know even what I want to draw right now. Actually, let's go with this so I can let's go with it there so you can see me. And if I need to, I'll zoom in on the screen if you ask me to. I honestly don't know what I'm going to draw, so I just figured I would doodle. I have this character that I've been drawing and playing with lately, and I've been kind of coming up with ideas. His name is Conway, and he's just this little kind of, I always look at him as like an adult Charlie Brown. You know, he kind of doesn't have good luck in a lot of stuff. But he means well, and he's got a good heart. And he's someone I'd like to bring in. You know, I'm working on developing him in different situations. And really right now, as I'm trying to figure out what kind of job would he have. So I'm just going to doodle maybe an idea that I've been playing with. So I'm going to move him over. Actually, you know what? Let me move him over this way. And by the way, for those who are going to ask, I'm working in Photoshop. And the other thing that hold on, I'm going to do it this way. I want to figure out. Okay, so we'll put 1, 2, right, and I'm going to change his eyes now. It's going to look a little sad. And there's going to be a table here. And by the way, he wears a checkered suit. And right now I'm playing also with sometimes I give him really tiny feet, which I think I want to do for this one here. I think it looks funnier with him to have very tiny feet. I'm seeing a comment from Victor right now, so let me just finish this table leg here, and we'll do that for now. And hold on, we'll put a table leg back here. This way I can give it some depth in there. So you say I have almost all those apps myself. I have Netflix, Hulu, Prime, HBO Max, and Disney Plus. I haven't used the VRV, but there were too many instances when I tried to play Boomerang show on VRV, and the error message. My favorite Nickelodeon show is Rocko's Modern Life, and was recently pulled. I hope that I hope that when CBS All Access gets rebranded, they put Rocko on there. I don't know much about about the streaming service or Rocko's Modern Life, to be honest. I was always more of a Cartoon Network guy than a Nickelodeon guy, and that's just personal preference. I just liked, Nickelodeon was doing, I'll be honest, was doing more edgier cartoons, which some of that stuff was fantastic. I thought it was great. But, I have a book on my animation shelf over there, like where I have all my how to animate books and stuff. And the creator of, let me go pull it real quick. I'll show it off to you guys here, if you haven't seen it. Where is it? No, that's not it. No. Oh, here it is. Okay. So, for anybody interested in animation, a really good book that I love, and if you want to know, okay, Joe Murray, creating animated cartoons with character, a guide for developing and producing your own series for TV, web, and short film. This book is from what year? 2010. I don't know how relevant it is these days, but it was a very good book, and I'm sure you can still get some great information from someone who was in the field. Oh, excuse me. It gets hot in my studio. I usually leave the door open, but when I'm recording, I don't want you guys to hear the TV that my wife's watching, or if my cat comes in to try to disturb me, or just meows like crazy. So it gets kind of hot in here. But anyway, I also don't know about CBS. I don't own the CBS. I don't own the CBS. What do they call it? All Access. I haven't watched Picard, which I do want to watch. And I'll put a little fish in here. Actually, wrong way. The idea of the fish, he needs to be for the joke. He needs to be in here. So let's just say this is the box, and he would have a gag line somewhere back there. But he's in his house, right? So maybe he's got another room right here. Here's the door frame. Maybe there's a picture on the wall behind him. I'd probably, if I was to redo it, let me redo it. I'd make it crooked, add a little bit to the scenery, because he's, like I said, he's a bit of a sad character. Thanks, Victor. He said it's a really That's a cool drawing you're doing. Thanks. And this is kind of how I work. I do work on pencil and paper, but I find myself going more digital these days. And let's do it like that. That's got to be thinner. But I do feel digital just kind of works. I can use the undo button. I can erase a lot easier, and it just makes my life easier when, like, if I was going to ink or really touch up the character now, which I'm probably not going to go crazy on. Let me change my brush to there. Make sure the pressure sensitivity's on. I'm going to zoom in, and I may just ink him a little bit. And one of the tricks about, just for those of you who never really digital inked or sometimes feel there's some trouble doing it, the trick to digital inking is zooming in. Okay, we're gonna get his. That's not too bad, but I don't like it. Another reason I like working in Photoshop is because I can rotate the canvas like so. And there's there's other great programs out there. We mentioned on one of the streams Clip Studio Paint. I know Francis draws in it. I actually do like to draw in it. I just don't have it on this computer. I only have it on my iPad. And I just don't want to spend the money. But I do like the ability that I got with Clip Studio. I think their pen is probably the best inking pen that you can have. Mm-hmm. I also find that for my inking style, if I go quick, it looks better than if I try to wait. Let's bring that kind of coming out around. So this collar would be coming around here and coming out like that. Nope, don't like that. I'm just going to bring it out right now for here. And I will go to the eraser real quick. Victor, if you're watching, are you? I'm sorry, I don't remember if I know you. I meet so many people doing shows and stuff. Are you an artist too, or? Excuse me. I'm thinking of a job for this character. A lot of times I make him a chef or just somebody, because I love to cook. And I think I could write a lot of funny cooking jokes. But I don't know, I'm thinking other kind of like an office job for him. And I've written office jokes because, who hasn't worked in an office? And, You do like to draw your own characters? Okay, that's cool. What kind of stuff do you draw? You know, the other character I was looking at when I designed my guy here was Ziggy, if you guys remember Ziggy from the old comics. I don't even know if he's still around. I'm sure he is. He's one of those classic characters. He doesn't get much attention these days, but I'm sure he's still loved in the newspaper. Okay. And I forgot his tie. Sometimes I put him in a bow tie. Sometimes I leave him in a regular, necktie. It all depends on my mood. Nope, I don't like that. Now, because we're inside the glass bowl and it's small, I'm going to give myself a smaller brush size. Why is it coming up that? It should be smaller. Let's go down a bit. There we go. And we'll add some kind of bumps for the rocks. Maybe we'll put a little plant here. Add a little bottom. Let's get the water going over here. I'm going to add a little shine to the bowl right there. And I'll fix that in coloring. Sometimes it's just what I do. So Victor says I draw furry characters who are either cute or cool looking. My favorite is named Feisty Fox. He's a modest character who tries to do what's right. I also have him in a white t-shirt, white shorts, white socks, and white sneakers. There are hardly any male animal characters who wear white shoes, and I hope to see that someday. Feisty likes the sneakers. That's a great concept. I'd be happy to have you post your work on the Incredicon page, so feel free to do so. If you want to post it in the comment here, you can do that as well if you have one. I love drawing animal characters too. And if you were listening to our, the females in fantasy thing that we did, you would be able to Daphne Lage draws furry style characters. I as well do. I have a character called Plunger Pup. It's about a dog who fights crime with a magic plunger. And I did him back in the late 90s. I'd love to bring him back at some point. And I'll figure that out if I'm going to do it or not. Now, normally I would do this setting up straight edges and stuff, and I could make a straight line there. See, and that helps because as let me undo that. You could see them on the Facebook page. You can look back and find them on our Facebook page. You can find them on my YouTube channel, which is just my name, Michael Grassia. So I'll post that up. And that's all my social media too. So anything I'm on social media is at Michael Grassia. But we also have a website. And I'll put that up too. So there's at Michael Grassia, and this is my Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook. Anything you find me on is that, and I'll put that up for a few moments so you can see. So that's the spelling of my name. Then I will put up the other website, but the other website comes from my YouTube page. So what I do is all these streams that I make, not just I, but Mike and I make, and Vinny and Ryan and whoever else comes on, all these streams that we're making, I put on a playlist on my YouTube page. And that YouTube playlist plays directly on our website, which I'll post now for you. Which is okay, and that's it, and there. And so now we'll go to that, and that's our website, IncrediConHV.com. So you'll be able to see all those in one place. And I do a lot of this Get in Tune night that I'm doing here. Whoops, hold on. I do a lot of educational streaming during the day. One of the things I do is I work as a substitute teacher, and with the schools going into quarantine and not being there, I decided to offer the kids. Oops, hit the wrong button there. Offer the kids some free cartooning lessons. Jeez, I thought I let go of it. So I'd be happy, to tell you where to go find those, and that's on the same playlist. The same YouTube page. It's under the playlist Get in Tune, or you can go to my website, which is right here, getintune.net. And if you go on that site, you can find my my videos. Whoops. Why isn't it undoing enough? There it goes. You can see my videos that I've done. And there's a page strictly for my videos. And what I'll do is, that's not right there what I'm doing. So I got to figure it'll come down to about here, and here, and here. Oops. And if you want, on Facebook, oh, did it again. All right, I got to fix that. If you want, on Facebook, go to getintune.net, and you can see what I have there. I don't post as much as I would like to, but I'm going to start. But I plan to start doing more very soon. So, whoops. Come on. And we got another comment here. Let me just remove the Get Into, take that off the banner. Oh, you're very welcome, Victor. Anything we can do to share our love for this medium with you guys, and I'm just doing this quickly, this one here. And I don't know what his picture could be. You know, I like to think sometimes of The Simpsons. I don't know if you can tell, but I got a Bart Simpson shirt on. Huge fan of The Simpsons. And they always have that sailboat picture, so maybe I'll make it like a sinking sailboat. You know, I like to reference things like that on occasion. I'll just give it the floor for now. Let's bring the floor down a little lower. I'm going to add in his checkered stripes here. I'm just going to create the door frame real quick. You know, one of the things that I also got to say is I'm not a huge fan of perfectly straight lines in my comics. I like to kind of have that freehand feel. So the table I'm not really 100% happy with. I actually prefer the way my door frame looks here. There's a little shadow there, a little shadow here. All right, I'm going to fill in his shoes black there. And if I miss some spots right now, this is just for fun, so I'm not going to go crazy on it or on. I'm going to do a little bit of coloring, not a lot. Whoops, wrong thing here. I want that off for now. And let's just draw. Okay. And I'm going to have to come down here and just really fix that. Even though I like it freehand, I do like certain areas to have the straight lines. So, Victor, I'll check it out when I'm done with the stream. I don't go on the pages when I'm currently streaming, so I'll make sure to take a look at it. I can't wait to see it. So Susan Nelson says, my girlfriend just handed me her phone. Your voice and accent is exactly like mine. It's downright eerie. My voice is coming out of another human. Where are you from? Maybe we grew up in the same area. Or maybe you just have an awesome voice. You know, speaking of my voice, it's actually funny. I used to, my high school job, I worked at McDonald's. And when I'd be in the drive-thru and I would, you know, hi, welcome to McDonald's. May I take your order? I used to get people coming up to my window saying, complimenting me on my voice, saying like, you know, you should really go into radio. You know, you have a great voice. You know, you speak very well. You're very clear. You're originally from Binghamton, New York. Well, I'm from Mahopac, New York, which is, I believe, 3 hours south of that, 3-4 hours south. I'm in Putnam County. I border Westchester and Dutchess for the most part. I don't live there anymore. I'm in Westchester now. I live in Yonkers. I'm 15 minutes from New York City. But I've been up in the Binghamton area. I had a friend I worked with when I taught at a college who was up in the Binghamton area. He was from there too. I won't put out names right now, but really good guy. He's back up in I think he's either back in the Binghamton area or he's up in Ithaca now. Oh, excuse me. So let's add a little color to this here. Oh, you know what I forgot? I forgot his hair. His crazy hair on the sides here. So let's go back to the ink layer, right? This is the ink layer. Yes, it is. And let's get, whoops. And I'll put a little out like that. I'm just going to have this kind of sad look. And I got to give him, I think, no. I got to figure out, his eyes aren't really looking down to me. Oh, you probably know of, if you're in the Woodstock area, you probably know of Mahopac, or at least have heard it. It borders Carmel, New York. It's actually a hamlet of Carmel. And what was interesting is, even though I grew up in Mayapack my whole life, I had a Carmel mailing address. So DJ O'Connor writes, "Are you drawing me?" And I'll be honest, you were the model for this. I went and looked at one of your Facebook pages, but you know I'm kidding. So let me just merge these layers together. Merge layers. Okay, cool. Now I'm going to create a new layer behind it, set this to multiply, and I'm just going to, and I'll tell you right now, if my colors in Shokin, I know of that. I just can't place it right now. I don't know, man. His DJ O'Connor writes, I don't know, man. The head's kind of too small to be mine. Well, I had to be able to fit it on the page, DJ. You know? And I will tell you this. I am colorblind. But I can hold my own when I need to be, because I understand how to mix colors through CMYK. I understand color theory. It's actually kind of interesting. I really do understand color theory very well, but I'm what's known as shade blind. I see colors, but when they start blending, I have trouble telling them apart. And it's not just with like reds and browns and stuff. It's all colors for me. So like if it's bright, like yellows and pure blues and stuff, I can see those things. But when you start blending them, like I'll be honest, the grass I see, I rarely see green grass. I see orange grass. So what I end up doing is I mix the cyan and the magenta until I kind of see like an orangish color, and then I'm like, oh, I know I got grass green. So, but I also know some codes. So like if I had 35 here, 50, 75, no, I think this is 100. This is 75. And this is 0. And this is a skin tone I use usually for African Americans. And then what I ended up doing is I'm like, okay, well, now I know I'm kind of in that area. I can go throughout my palette, and if I want to go lighter or darker, or just even adjust some things, you know, some movements on the palette here. So like right there. And now what I'll do is I'll come in and I'll take my lasso tool, and if I screw up, there's always the eraser. Let me take my glasses off. I'm also nearsighted, so I have trouble seeing things far away. So things close up, I take my glasses off for. What's going on here? Come in. There we go. And that was my fault. I let go on purpose because I didn't like what I was seeing here. And I could do this in sections or all at once. And I don't know if you guys copy this color this way, if you color comics or anything, but I like to select everything that's going to be one color. And I don't mind coloring over things too. So, but now I just go down to my color layer and edit, fill. And now I got the whole thing, and I look and see, did I make any mistakes? I see some empty pieces, and then that's when I can go on with my brush and fill this up. Or sometimes I'll just leave it. Sometimes it's a nice little effect that adds that highlight feature. And if I went over, you know, and I like to have all my colors on different layers. So I'm going to go up to another color, another thing here, and I'm going to get the was it Susan Nelson says, handing back over to my girl. Well, thank you. I hope you're enjoying what I'm doing, and just listen to you talk here through me. DJ says, whoa, who are you and what have you done with Mike? What's that supposed to mean? I think I'm doing good here, right? So my Caucasian skin tone I use is 25% magenta, 25% yellow, and nothing else. Am I doing too good? Oh, your mic wears. Oh, you missed that? Did you come in late? I'm nearsighted, so I can't see far away. I take my glasses off usually to look close up at things. But DJ, just so those who are unaware, he's another great stream you can look at. We had a great conversation while he was drawing some Disney ducks on Sunday. I forget which stream he's technically in. I did like 3 or 4 streams that day, but if you look up, it says who's in them. And and it was fun. I thoroughly enjoyed talking. I don't get to talk to some of my friends as much as I like to, so okay. And just so you know, DJ, I looked into contacts, but I got incredibly dry eyes. I cannot ever wear contacts. I tried them once, and I was in so much pain. They like dried up so quick that we had to put a bunch of solution in my eyes just to get it out. And I'm going to give him I think I'll give him a white shirt. Oh, don't want that. And by the way, you'll notice if you know Photoshop, there is a key command for this, but I don't know. I always have trouble with the F keys on Macs. And I think I'm going to give him a black tie. Whoops, I didn't have black on there. And because it's black on that same layer, I'm going to use a little black, and I want to fill in his mouth. Now, you should do this on the ink layer, but why not for now, just right? Ooh, that looks terrible. There's a reason I should have probably done it. Okay, let's just clean this up a bit. And I want to go, and I know there's some areas I can go in and clean up. So, what time is it? Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add a quick border to here. Black. I don't know if this is the perfect size border, but if I hold it as a perfect square, there we go. I don't know. I don't like that size. And let's just do, doesn't matter the size, because I'll actually redraw this for an actual comic. Let's edit, stroke, there it is. And I think I'll do, let's try 6 pixels, see how that looks. Boom, Command D. So I'm in my panel now, and if I wanted to, so I'm gonna go, actually this is something, this is funny. I don't know how funny this is to you, but to me, one of the things is when I color, right? And I'm coloring, and I should label my layers so I can remember this. But when I color a fish food like I have here, I always give it a red top and a yellow body, and or yellow container. And I don't know if you can figure out why, but that's because when I was a kid and I used to watch Mr. Rogers, that was the color of his fish food container. So that's what I remember. Whoops, it didn't change the yellow. Thought I took off the red. Sorry. There we go. And I'm going to make the fish, make him a goldfish. So that is 100% magenta. I mean 100% yellow and 25% magenta. And now I got this gold color. And DJ writes, it was indeed. Did you see Mr. Rogers on Amazon Prime? No, I have not. Are you talking about like the old show, or are you talking about the what's his name? Tom Hanks movie? I haven't seen that either. I was very upset I couldn't get a chance to see it in the theater. We'll do his rocks. Well, let's get a little green here. So let's do 25, 0, and maybe 40. Let's see how that looks. Ooh, no, that's ugly. Let's go 50 on the, and let's go 75 here. We're getting closer. Let's go maybe 75, 75. I'll go with that. What'd you say? The old show's on Amazon, a few seasons. The Tom Hanks movie almost made me cry several times. I'm sure it did. I mean, I know when I watched the, what was it? It was called Everyone's Favorite Neighbor, that one that was released a couple of years ago in the theater. Oh my God, when I watched that, I teared up a few times. I'm going to go with, whoops. Oh, sorry, I forgot to hit 0 there. So let's turn that to 0. Let's bring this up to 65 and kind of have purple rocks, right? And I want to go back to black on another layer. I'm going to lower my opacity here. Not my opacity. My brush size. And I'm going to put a couple of lines like this. Okay. And over all that, I'm going to create a... Whoops, not there. Mandy. What am I doing? Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to collect, so maybe from here for now. Okay, let me just add this here. Oops, where'd that happen? I want to add this to this. There we go. And I'm going to get a blue, a very light blue. So 0 here, 0 here, 0 here. I want this cyan. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill it. Yes. And now it covers everything but that, so it's not on the right layer. So I'm going to move that up here. And I can see I need some I see I need some piece here. And I'm going to lower the opacity on it so we can kind of see into it. So even though he's a goldfish right now, he looks a little green, but it does have that that water feel. Why can't I color? Oh, there it goes. Just because of how light it is. Let's see. And maybe come around a little bit. Actually, you know what? I don't want that. Okay. And I'm not going to color the rest of the image. Maybe I'll just add a little background color just because that does help a lot. So I'll go with, we haven't used like an orange, right? I mean, although gold is kind of orangey, we'll go with a light one. DJ says the documentary is fantastic. Was fantastic as well. I cried like a baby at the end of it. I agree. I think I did too. Let me go to my brushes. What I want to do now is I want to find like a let's try this. And how big's the brush? 50%? No, why isn't it? Is it coloring? Oh, wait, maybe because it's a blender. I haven't used that brush before. I wanted something more watercolor-like. Let's maybe see any on special effects. Concept brushes, screen tones. Screen tone might be fine. Let's see what's that look like. Adds a little texture to the walls. Now I feel like I need to finish coloring this piece a little bit. So let's go back to the browns. So what do I do? 35, 75, 100, and I might play with colors within that area there. And I'm gonna go not so dark, maybe up like that over here. And I'm just gonna go quickly, and I'm gonna turn that into the table. Whoops, should have stayed down here. Okay. I'll go in and fix these mistakes I'm doing. But at least I got the majority of it taken care of. Edit, fill. Okay. And what I'm going to do here is take my brush, which I know right now is set to that, and go back to a regular brush. I'll just use this hard round. And whoa, lower my brush size. And I'll go on with the eraser now and touch up. And I'm just going to do something like this here. Let's put that layer. Let's move that layer. Come on. What's going on? Oh, did I hit something? Sorry. Some stuff appears on my other screen if I accidentally open a window. So let's just move this layer below here. And I'm going to fill this for now with black. I know it looks a little weird, but it's black, and I will lower the opacity because that black really makes it stand out. So come down. So it's just a little different. Picture frame, maybe I'll go with that gold color that I did. And maybe I'll just change it up a bit right there. Again, I don't know if the colors are 100% look good together. Usually the way I do this work is I color it my way, and then I call my wife into the room and I say, help, I need help. I'm coloring right now. And she comes in and says, what color were you trying to make? And I'll be like, I wanted green. And she says, no, that is not green at all. So I will mix green again. And she will tell me, that's a good green. No, that's not a good green. What are you trying to color? Is that supposed to be a flower? Well, that is a terrible green for that. So she'll be like that to me. And I love the honesty because it doesn't make me look bad. I did this all on my own. So if the colors don't work, I know it's my fault. right now. And then as with any single panel comic, we do need some kind of gag line. So let's choose a fun font. I will choose digital strip. And I'll put that there, and whoop, that came up really big. And let's move that over there. And I'll bring this down because it's at 80 points. It should really be at like 14 or under. You may not be able to see it, so I'll bring it up just a little bit for now. Did it go up to 18? Yes, it did. And he's going to say, you know, every time. Is every time one word? I don't remember. I'll put it as 2 words. I think every time is 2 words. Every time I come to see you, comma, you turn your back and poop. I think, sorry. I'm starting to think you're, and it's prop one, you're trying to tell me, tell me something. And I'm just gonna fix that. So what I like to do is I like to center, and then I like to balance this out. So, oops. Come on, right there. Down one, over, and space it out. And I think that works better. So even though this strip is a lot bigger than I normally would draw it at, because this is, I'm drawing on 11 by 17. So I'll make this font bigger right now. Too much. Let's go down to 27. And I'm going to change the spacing I have here. Let's go to 24. That's too big. Let's bring it down to 18. See how? No, still too big. Oh, I see why sooner, because I have that set up like that. Okay, so let's fix the font. Let's bring it down to 14. And I like to go a little lower on the spacing than keeping it equal. So 12. There we go. And I think what I might do is, instead of making a comma, I might add 3 dots. 1, 2, 3. That kind of adds what we call a beat. So it kind of gives you a place to pause. And I don't know if I should end it with a question mark. Grammar is also not my strong suit. So, last and most important thing we always do. We can't forget to do this. And I always do it on a separate layer, right? Nothing on that layer. Is we sign it and we date it. Oops. Give me a second here. Let's lower the brush size. And I have a big signature, so I always sign large first. And then what I do is I take it and I shrink it. That's a good size. And now just, whoops. Now just, why can't I move it? Hold on, there we go. It's on that layer. There it goes. And I'll just throw my signature somewhere on there. And this comic is done. I don't know if it's funny, but it's an idea I had for him. I've actually written about a good 30 jokes for this character. I would say I have probably 10 that I'm really, really happy with. This is one I'm still kind of playing with the idea, which is why I chose it. I thought maybe I might get a new idea, a new thought process on it. You know, it could end with, I'm starting to think we're not friends. You know, so it could have lots of different types of gags. So yeah, let me come back to here for a bit. Now I can put my glasses on so DJ can feel comfortable seeing his friend looking properly here. Does that help you, DJ, if you're still watching? So, yeah, this is. I think I'm going to end in a few minutes. I'm not going to go much longer. I've actually had a really fun time tonight. When we do the Get in Tune coming up on Tuesdays, they're going to be more interview based. But if I don't have a guest, I might do more things like this. I kind of, you know, drawing and kind of relaxing and talking about comics and whatnot. And if you guys have questions on comics or want to just bring up a comic to talk about, if I haven't read it, I'd love to hear about it from you. If I have read it, we can actually have a really cool discussion with this. You know, I really find this type of stuff fun, and yeah, I mean, I'm going to be doing every Tuesday on here, I'll be doing this type of stuff. So, you know, don't forget, you know, first of all, make sure you subscribe to our Incredicon channel on Facebook, which is at Incredicon HV. I don't think I have a thing for it yet. I got to look it up and make it up to post on there. But if you can, don't forget to follow me on social media at Michael Grassia. All my social media is at Michael Grassia. And my website is getintoon.net. And this is my educational website, so you can check out any educational videos I've done. If you don't go on my YouTube page and look up the Get in Tune playlist, you'll see those videos on there. And if you go to IncrediConHV.com, and you can check out any of the videos that we've done. The stuff we've done this week, I'll be honest, I haven't updated to the playlist yet, but we have older stuff. You can check those out right now on the Incredicon HV on Facebook page, or just look it up on my YouTube page, because we stream to both at the same time, so I recorded at both places. And tomorrow, I just want to announce tomorrow, starting at noon, we're going to have, from noon to 1, we're going to do a virtual visit to East Side Mags in New Jersey, which is a fantastic comic shop. You know, then from 1 to 2, we're going to have Jamie Costley on here, who's a great cartoonist, and it'll be streamed here and on my YouTube page as well. Then from 3 to 4, we're going to have Keith Tucker, who is a storyboard artist and worked on cartoons from my childhood, like Transformers and He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. And in the 90s, he did Tiny Toons and Animaniacs and Pinky and the Brain and all those shows. So he's an amazing storyboard artist and a really, really nice guy. And our last one is Tom Cook from 5 to 6, who animated shows like the Super Friends. He worked on He-Man, he worked on She-Ra, he worked on tons and tons of stuff. So we'll have throughout the day. That'll be the last official day of this week's Incrediweek. Next Incrediweek starts Monday. We're going to take a break on Sunday. Next Incrediweek starts Monday. And Mike Lopez will be interviewing, I believe you say his name, Scott Inez, who on Monday night, who voiced Scooby-Doo in some of the Scooby-Doo movies. Tuesday, we'll be back with Get in Tune, and I'll have Renee Pfizer on, who is an Australian artist who does these really great fantasy, kid-friendly looking fantasy stories, usually starring more like goblin type of characters, not too many human type of stuff. But he's got a great Kickstarter out. I want to get you guys to know about it, because I already donated to the Kickstarter. I'm excited for it. He does great work. I follow him on Instagram. Fantastic, funny stuff. So he's someone to hopefully check out. And I got to be honest, I don't remember our schedule for the rest of the week off the top of my head. But we're gonna have something Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. I think I don't want to name it. I don't want to. But we have the Dark Crystal next week when Mike can do it with Chris, Tim, and Cassine. I might pop in for a little bit just to say hi because I'm friends with them. But I'm gonna since I don't know much about Dark Crystal, I'll probably stay off that work that panel, if you want to call it. But yeah, we have a lot of great stuff. So tune in next week. Tune in tomorrow. Tomorrow's going to be really, really fun. And if you have any questions or want to see some, you have ideas for artists you want me to interview, let me know. Send me a message. If you have ideas that you want to see Mike and I talk to, send us your ideas. We'd love to just give you guys what you want. So yeah, we're gonna be doing stuff like that. But we love to hear feedback from you, and we'll see what we can do about bringing you the people that you really want to see. So thanks a lot. Thanks for getting in tune with me today. I had a lot of fun. I can't wait to interview the people tomorrow, as well as start a regular Get in Tune on starting our Tuesday. So it'd be every Tuesday night from 8:30 to 9:30. And this week we might have an extra guest afterwards because it's our Incrediweek. So you'll find out. So again, thanks for joining. Thanks for tuning in. And I'll see you guys tomorrow right here on the Incredicon HV channel. All right. See you later. Bye, guys.